Last Shabbos, I see a shiur in a yeshiva called Shor Yoshev in the Five Towns, and last Shabbos they had a bunch of beginners, Makarian boys who had come to try out yeshiva and see whether they liked it or not. So they asked me to give a shiur to them, which I was very happy to do. And then afterwards it went so well that the Makarian Bochrim were having Shalosh Shuddas in somebody's house, and they asked if I would come along and join in the Shalosh Shuddas, which again I was happy to do. And so we were sitting there, and it was more of a schmooze, just enjoying each other's company. And one of the Bochrim asked an interesting question. And the question was as I. He said, "It's true that so much that we have to do in Yiddishkeit is Zecher L'Yitzias Mitzrayim. We have to have a chorus of Tov to Hashem Yisborach, Zecher L'Yitzias Mitzrayim. He took us out from Mitzrayim." Okay, Reb Chaim Friedlander says in Sisichayim that when Hashem Yisborach said, "Anochi Hashem Elokecho Asher Hotzisecha Me'etz Yisrael," he was pressing the Hakaras HaTov button, knowing that he would get a response from Klal Yisrael, because the Iker Midah, Zok to the Iker Yiddish Midah, is the Hakaras HaTov. And this Bochel said, "Is that true?" And I said, "Yes, that's true." And he said, "I don't understand. Why do we have to thank Hashem Yisborach for taking us out from Mitzrayim? He put us there in the first place." Interesting question. I don't know if you ever thought about the question, but I thought it was a very, very good question, particularly from somebody just starting out in Yiddishkeit and Limud HaTorah. More than that, we have discussed over the years together, it's a Gemara in Brochus, and the Alshich brings it as a Medrash Rabbah as well, that when Hashem Yisborach was angry with Klal Yisrael because we made the Egel Azov, then Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to defend Klal Yisrael, and he said, Hashem Yisborach, a moshel l'chol lama hadoiva doina. I want to give you a moshel to explain what the situation is like. And whenever I read that, I can't stop laughing. That sounds a little bit strange. What is the purpose of a moshel? A moshel is a story that illustrates a difficult idea and makes the difficult idea less difficult to comprehend. Yes? And Moshe Rabbeinu says to Hashem Yisborach, a moshel l'chol l'ma hadav adonai. Rabbi Hashem, I'd like to give you a moshel just to clarify what the situation is like. A strange losh. He said there was a son, a very good-looking Jewish boy, and his father decided to set him up in business, and the business was to have a store in a shuk, a non-Jewish shuk, to sell perfumes. The Medrash says, it's in the Gemara as well, the shuk was full of zaynas. Says the Medrash, the smell, the scent of the perfume came out, and it played its part. The zaynas played their part. The youth of the bocher played its part. And as to Zaman, you can understand, Nishkin Grace and Chidush, the bocher did a terrible avera. That's the moshel. The nimshel, the good-looking boy, that was Klal Yisrael. The marketplace full of znus, that was Mitzrayim. The father that put the boy in the place that he got into trouble, that was you, Hashem Yisborach. So Klal Yisrael did an avera. Whose fault is it? It's the Tata. So it's very interesting. So this fellow said, why is it that we have to give a chorus, a tov to Hashem Yisborach for taking us out from Mitzrayim? He put us there. He was the Tata who put us there in the first place. I thought it was a very, very good question. Versteht sich, it's very easy to blame parents. And I must admit, when I was growing up, more than once or twice, I blamed my parents for things. In the Mishnah, at the end of the fourth parak of Pirkei Avos, we talk about Elisha ben Avua. Elisha ben Avua, who gave us a wonderful limud, which was, when you learn when you're young, it goes in more clearly. It's like a piece of paper which is clean, like writing in a clean piece of paper, easy to read. But when you learn when you're older, then it's more difficult. It's like a piece of paper where all the writing's been rubbed out and somebody's writing on top of it. It's not so clear. But Elisha ben Avua became Acher, the famous Apikaris, the Rebbe of Reb Meir. And Elisha ben Avua explained why he went off the derech. It was my father's fault. My father sent me to yeshiva for the wrong reasons. There's the famous story, the father saw two people learning Torah, and the place was full of light or fire. He said, oh, it's gewaldig, look at that. I'd like my son to have that. He sent me to the yeshiva for the wrong reasons. It's very easy to turn around and blame your father. Okay, so he sent you for the wrong reasons. But you left for the wrong reasons instead of turning the yeshiva into the right reasons. It's easy to blame it on your father. After all, Avram Avinu could have blamed a lot on his father. He had a father called Terach, who stuck him in prison for 10 years. Yeah. If you want a teretz, you can find a teretz. But very often we make a teretz when it comes to a father and a vada, when it comes to Avinu Shebashamayim. It's easy to blame Hashem. Everybody blames Hashem for everything. I had a Talmud in Gateshead. He came across from Newcastle, which is a city nearby. He's in touch with me ad hayom hazeh. His parents are fabulous people, were fabulous people. The mother passed away. She passed away from lung cancer. But she smoked cigarettes very heavily. I was always surprised, but she smoked very heavily. And she got lung cancer. Ad hayom hazeh, this fellow has not forgiven God for giving his mother lung cancer. What's written on the side of the packets of the cigarettes? Causes sneezing? Nope. Causes pimples? Nope. Causes cancer. And particularly lung cancer. But it's God's fault. Everybody wants to blame God. Very easy to blame your parents. So last 2 Shabbos ago, I spent a Shabbos not very far from here in one of these things called a bungalow colony. Some of the bungalow colonies are really nice. This wasn't one of those. And there was a base of medrash there, which we could go and learn in. I can't remember the name of the base of medrash. Base dampness, I think it was, or base mold, one of the two. And the Sfarim that were there were, they were all like stuck together. But I managed to get hold of one Gemara that wasn't so gefährlich. It was a Gemara Chagiga, and I was learning the Gemara Chagiga. And I found there an astonishing thing. Here's the Gemara. Tana Rabbanim. Because the Rabbanim say the following thing. Maisa by Rabbi Yochanan ben Breika. There's a story about Rabbi Yochanan ben Breika, by Rabbi Loza ben Chasma. Shaholcho lekabel pnei Rabbi Shua. They went to see and welcome the Rebbe Rabbi Shua. And Omer Lahem, and Rabbi Shua said to them, Machidush hoya bebeis hamedrash hayoy. What chidush did you hear in the Beis HaMedrash today? Omer Loi Talmidecha. They said, we are your Talmidim. Mimecha Ana Shesed. We learn from you. We drink the water of you. We drink your Torah. And it says in Pirkei Avos, you shouldn't say it's Varaloch in front of your Rebbe unless he gives you Rishus. So we don't want to say anything in front of you. We're here to learn from you. Omer Lahem Afal Pikei. So Rabbi Yeshua turned around and said, even though that's true, tell me something. It's impossible to have a base of medrash without a chidush, a discovery in the Torah. So tell me, Shabbos Shomi Hoyasa. Who darshaned this Shabbos? Shabbos Shel Rebbe Loza ben Azariah. It was the Shabbos of Rebbe Loza ben Azariah. Whoa! And what did he say? Hoyasa Obama Hoyasa Haggadah Hayom. What did he tell you? Omer Loi b'Parshas Hakel. We were learning the Seder of Hakel. All the Yidden came together. Every single Yid comes to Yerushalayim to learn Torah. Uma Dorish Bo. What did he darshan? So he darshan the pasuk which says, Hakel es ha'am, gather the gans klal Yisrael. Hanoshim, the men. Hanoshim, the women. The hataf, and the babies, and the children. Im Anoshim, this was the drosha. This was the drosha. So this is worth hearing. Rabbi Loza ben Azariah. So see what you can make of this drosha. If the men came together, Hakel, to learn Torah, Noshim boys lishmoya, and the women came to listen to the Torah, Taf lama boy. Why did they bring babies? Why did they bring babies? So he explained. Rabbi Loza ben Azariah said, "Kedei litin skar lemeviehen," to give scar to the people who brought them. Omer Lahem, Rabbi Yeshua says, Margolias toiva hoyasa biyadechem. You had such a wonderful pearl, a precious pearl like that in your hands, and you were trying to hide it from me? That's the story. Now, Rabbi Sai, there I was in base dampness, and I looked at this and I thought to myself, I don't get this. I want you to imagine, I don't think when Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah and Yeshua, that side of yeshiva, this was not a Torah. This is not a beginner's yeshiva. So, guess what? If Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah had come to Brisk this morning, somehow he comes back to life. Unbelievable. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, he comes to Brisk in Yerushalayim. Rebbe, give us a drosha. Okay. Well, in the Pasuk V'Hakil, it talks about bringing the men and the women and the children all together to learn Torah Yerushalayim, Gavaldik. Now, the men were to learn, the women to hear. Why was the children? To give reward for the people who brought them. Gavaldik! Are you kidding? And he turned around and said, oh, what Gavaldik a Chiddush! Oh, how could you have kept this for me? I'm struggling here, gentlemen. Do you hear a Gavaldik a Chiddush here? I'm looking for thumbs. There's half an hour here. Nothing. Yeah, so that together. Are you excited by this Chiddush? So I was struggling with this. What's the ganze Chiddush here? Well, of course, you find a nice, interessante piece of Agadita, and of course, the place you look to find an answer to what's going on, the first stop at the Marshal, of course. After that, I don't think there's no particular seder. I think Zechon the Marshal is number one. After that, maybe you'll say the Morale of Prague, but I always like to look in this sefer the Ben Yehuda, the Ben Ish Chai. And Baruch Hashem, the Ben Ish Chai was machavan to my question. Machavan to my question. Or maybe I was machavan to his. I was machavan to his. So what is this big chiddush? So he says, let me read a little bit. And I'm going to surprise Oy vey, this is, you're going to, I'd just like to say, first of all, I'm an Orthodox rabbi. Before, I need to give you a hakdama here. I am Orthodox, actually pretty ultra-Orthodox. I sometimes stone people in Shabbos, even if they're not being Mechalel Shabbos. I find it very therapeutic. I'm pretty frum, okay? Just to give you a heads up, so was the Ben Ish Chai. Okay? Just to warn you. And you're all sitting down? Good. So he says, Sham, Noshim boim lishmoya. If the women came to learn, Taf, Lama, boim, why did they bring the children? Okay. So he says, how do you look at this? Im Noshim mavin hadrosha. If the women understand the drosha, Nim shehem beklal anoshim, they're the same as the men. So it should have said the men and the women come to learn. Listen to this. And if they don't understand, Im kain gam al anoshim yesh l'shol lama baim. Then you should ask the same question to the women. What's the point of them coming? Not just what's the point of the children coming, what's the point of the women coming? Listen to the Hebrew. The shmiya b'li havona mata elus yesh bo. Because listening and not understanding, what's the point of that? I remember, I can't remember if I told you this story. Whenever I give shirim, whatever I'm especially, particularly if I'm saying a series of shirim, I always start off by saying, if I say something you don't understand, please don't be embarrassed to say I don't get it. It's probably nothing wrong with you. I've probably not taught it well. Or I've got a Scottish accent. There's probably nothing wrong with you. For Kert, there's a Maisa which happened to me in Gateshead Yeshiva. I was in the Yeshiva of Reb Leib Gurovitz. It's a Chatzadik Kodesh V'Roch, the Rosh Yeshiva. And one of the Bochrim asked a klutz kasha. You all familiar with a klutz kasha, gentlemen? Yeah. It's Yiddish for a really stupid question, right? And it was such a stupid question that showed that this Bocher hadn't understood what was going on for the last half hour, that all the other Bochrim burst out laughing. And if I'm really being honest, I was the fellow who asked the klutz kasha. And Reb Leib Gurovitz turned around and shouted to the Chevra, lach nit. Don't ask the question, don't laugh. There's a phrase in Yiddish which goes like this. Ask the question and seem a fool for one moment. Don't ask the question and be a fool forever. Do you get it? Because if you ask a stupid question, then the Rebbe sees that you haven't understood and he'll explain it to you. Or he'll say later, come and I'll speak to you later, it's going to take a little while. And then you've got the answer. And now you know why it's a silly question. But if you don't ask the question, you still think it's a good question. But you haven't been told why it's not a good question, so you go through life being a fool forever. More than that, the first Ramban in the Torah says, I don't understand the Rashi. Several times in his Perush in the Torah, the Rashi says, I don't understand why the Pasuk says that. So if the Rashi and the Ramban have no embarrassment about saying, I don't understand, you shouldn't have it either. And I say this because I want people to know, and that's what the Ben Ish Chai says, Teshmiya b'li havon. Because listening and not understanding, what's the point of that? What's the to'elis of that? So if the women understand, then they're with the men. If they don't understand, ask the same question to women. What's the point of bringing the women if they don't understand? Are you with me? And you're sitting down. And again, I'm quite orthodox. You ready? So here we go. So with heaven's help, I want to explain. Even when women hear a shir, even though they don't spend when women learn, at the end he brings his son. His son said the women hear droshes as well. And I can tell you this because when I give shirim all over the world, there's a very big difference to how you give a shir to a woman, or rather how you give it, what you say. Women with their klal want tachlis. Women want tachlis. Give me something, some zach, something I can apply in my life. Men, when we're learning, we quite like pil-pul. Our thumbs are going all over the place. Yeah, we like the process of getting to a maskana. But the women want a maskana. They want to get... So the son of the Ben Ish Chai says, the woman taka learned, but they learned Musa and Yerushalayim. That's tachlistic. Men are quite interested to do this sort of thing, right? Thumbs. Keep thumbs in mind. Now listen to this. So he says, even though they don't learn the thumb stuff, there is a to'elis for them listening to it. The Isa Bazara Kodesh, because the Zohar says, Pasha Shlach L'cha, Shara Isa Tzadik, a certain Tzadik saw, Yehecholas began Eden, Bati Midrashim in Gan Eden, Sheyashim Shom Hanoshim Dafka, set aside for women to learn with their thumbs. Avasham Himishtadlim Hanoshim Bepikudi Araiso Betabayhu. And the women there are learning Tif Lomdas. Ooh. And this is being videoed. This is the end of my career. Okay? So he says very interesting. It is the case that when women are hearing it, even though consciously they might not be understanding it, but it's being absorbed into their neshamas. A woman versteht it. Now we're talking about women learning Torah, Avada women learn Torah. But not the Pil-Pul type Torah. They have another tafkid. Tachlis, they make the family. I don't just mean having children. They're in charge of the whole, they're the mashgiach of the mishpacha. When they leave their goof behind and they're in Shemayim, they don't have that tachlis anymore. They're not having babies in Shemayim. There are no mikvahs in Shemayim. Then they can talk and learn. And guess what? What they listen to is absorbed. And that's what they're learning upstairs. That's what you're bringing them to. Now, if that sounds a bit frum, or even a bit shver, let me tell you an incredibly interesting story. The Manchester Rosh Hashiva, his son-in-law, is a very good friend of mine. We had a chavrusa for many years. It's called Moshe Kuppes. So Zang Stark. He's quite an elderly yid these days. He's from New York originally. A character, a wonderful Baal Chesed, fabulous fellow. Now Moshe Kuppes told me a story. Happened to a Hasidic yid in Williamsburg. His wife Nebuch had a brain tumor. The brain tumor was called a benign tumor, not cancer. But there's a tumor forming inside the brain which has to be cut out because it can kill you even if it's not cancer because it's putting pressure on the brain. Anyway, so they scheduled the operation. They met with the surgeon, who was an Italian-American, and the lady went in for the operation for Shtetzach, the family, and the Tata, the husband sitting outside Zog and Tilim with all his goof belev. And eventually, after 2-3 hours, out comes the surgeon and goes over to Mr. Katzenellenbogen and says, Mr. Katzenellenbogen, I've got good news. Complete success, tumor removed. She'll make a complete and total recovery. And then the surgeon said, Incidentally, Mr. Katzenellenbogen, I didn't realize your wife spoke Italian. He says, what? He says, I didn't realize your wife spoke Italian. Italian? Italian. I'm an Italian American, and when I was operating on your wife, she was speaking in fluent Italian. It's my mama Loshen. Well, he didn't say mama Loshen, but you get the idea. It's my mom. I speak Italian, and your wife is speaking Italian. Doctor, my wife hardly speaks English. I mean, what's it, Italian? So they did an inquiry. Listen to this. Pelle de Kazakh. This lady, when she was a baby girl, when she'd just been born, her mother was very ill from the birth. And she wasn't able to look after the baby. It took her 6 months to recover from whatever the machla was. So they hired a nurse to look after the baby. The nurse was Italian. And the nurse for 6 months spoke to the baby in Italian. Sang songs to the baby in Italian. And guess what? When he was in there, they say, with computers, if you delete stuff from your computers, it's still there. Are you hearing this, Hillary Clinton? It's still there. And people who know how to get it out again can bring it out. What she heard went into her brain, and when, as it were, when he was operating, he crossed the circuit, he brought to life a file that had been lying dormant all the time. She spoke Italian. No, she's hearing it as a baby, but it goes in. Astonishing. It went in and it came out. So women, even though women don't normally do the thumbs bit, but when they listen, it's going in. This is actually scientific. Pelle de Kazakh. What about the children? So the Ben Ish Chai says that doesn't apply to children. You can't say that about children. We're now saying that Taka women have a tachlis to hear Torah, even though they're not understanding it, and certainly to go to shir, which they do understand, because it's going to come out in the future. But that doesn't apply to children. Before the age of chinuch, says the Ben Ish Chai Pelle de Kazakh, before the age of chinuch, children are there oisik and oilam hazeh only. They want to play with balls. 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds have got teddy bears. Then it's not going in. Why is he so excited? Why is Rabbi Shua so excited about this? So he says an incredible thing. And that is as follows. That it's an actual fact, it's in the Paris of Mishnayos. In the Paris of Mishnayos of the Bartanura, there is in Perik Beis of Pirkei Avos, Mishnah Ches, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai Kibul Mihillel Shammai. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai learned from Hillel and Shammai. And who are you? Im Lamad Torah Harbor. If you learn lots of Torah, Al Techazet Torah Lamatzcha. Don't be too excited about yourself, because Kilakach L'Tzatza. That's why you were created in the first place. Fine. And then the Mishnah says, Chamisha Talmidim Hoyel Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. 5 Talmidim. The other hand, Rabbi Elazar ben Horkadas, Rabbi Yeshua Bachanina. That's our Rabbi Yeshua from the Gemara, who got so excited when he heard about this Gevaldik Chidush. And Rabbi Yosef ben Yosef Cohen, Shimon ben Nathaniel, and Elazar ben Arach. Who hayamoyne shvachim? And he talked about the shvach of each and every one of them. Rabbi Elazar ben Horkanes, Bar Said, She'ein Mabek Tip. He was like a well that was coated with cement on the inside, so that none of the water seeped out. Rabbi Yeshua, our Rabbi Yeshua, Ashrei Yeladatoi. Happy is the person who gave birth to Rabbi Yeshua. Who gave birth to Rabbi Yeshua? It's a silly question, but I have to emphasize this. His mother. Okay? Now listen to what the Bartanura says. The Bartanura says, first of all, what does it mean? Happy are those who gave birth to him. Well, he says, Ish Omrim, because, excuse me, I lost the place. Yeah. Me Osher Memidas type is, he was such Gavaldik Midas. People saw such a wonderful, fabulous person, a bit like Nomi in Megillah Shuras, that everybody just loved her. Everybody loved Rabbi Yeshua. He was just wonderful. But then he brings 2 other pshatim. Listen to this. When she was expecting Rabbi Yeshua, do you know this? She went to every yeshiva in town, in Muncie. She comes and she says, with the Bochrim, please daven that the child that I'm carrying will be a Talmud Chacham. That's one thing. But listen to this. But not only that, V'omra lahem b'kosher mechem b'kosher rachamim ala uber, so you should be a Talmud Chacham. Not only that, she kept him when he was born. This child never left the Beis HaMedrash, so that he would only hear Divrei Torah. That means to say that normally a child, it's not like women, it's not going in there by osmosis, is the English word. It's going in there accidentally, and Lo'osid Lova in Shemaim is going to come out again. A child that doesn't go in at all. Do you know why? Because there's other stuff, and the other stuff doesn't let it go in. A child up to 3 is interested only in Olam HaZedika stuff. Suppose there is no Olam HaZedika stuff. Suppose there is nothing else. In Gateshead Yeshiva, when I was there, we had, I would say about a quarter of the yeshiva were Sephardim. The Sephardim that we had in those days are not the Sephardim you get in America, because normally Sephardim in America come from Iran, Syria, these sorts of places. Our Sephardim came from North Africa, and Befrat from Morocco. And I was just discussing with the son of my Rov, the Gateshead Rov. He's got a son called Reb Naftali. She's a friend of mine in Bensonhurst. And I remember, I was just telling him this just recently, that what used to annoy us Ashkenazi boys was the fact that these Sephardic Chaver would come from Casablanca and Fez and all these places. And they looked, Nebuch a bit rough. Within a year, they were Talmidei Chachamim. Within a year, they were Talmidei Chachamim. We had to hack and work away at it. And these guys came and they were, a year, they knew it all. And we were very upset. And I can't remember which of the Rabbonim of Gateshead said to me, do you know why? Because Ashkenazi Bochrim, their heads are full of shtus. We had to go to public schools, or we had to go to, do non-Jewish syllabus. So you had to learn all about the presidents of the United States of America, huh? Well, we had to learn about the kings and queens of Europe, okay? And you probably had to learn about all the Greek gods. And you probably had to learn about this and that and the other, all sorts of stuff. Well, you know what? If let's say you've got a bottle of orange juice, and you want to pour in water, you want the orange juice out. One way to do that, empty out the orange juice, pour it in, no problem. But suppose you're pouring in water to the jug of orange juice to displace the orange juice that's already there. How much water do you have to push in before you get rid of the orange juice that's there? Let's say it holds a litre. How many litres of water are you going to have to pour in to get rid of the orange juice there? So the Sephardic guys from Morocco, they were empty. There wasn't anything to push out. They were just waiting for Yiddishkeit. We were full of garbage. Right? So we had to push that out. It took a lot longer to do. Astonishing thing. But Rabbi Yeshua, there was nothing there. There was absolutely nothing there. And therefore, because all he had was Torah, there was nothing from outside. His mother kept him in the yeshiva. Guess what? It went straight in and he became the great Rabbi Yeshua. So now he gets why it applies to Taf as well. For everybody else, yes. But interesting, his mother knew this. His mother understood. That's why she did. He didn't know. It was a chiddush. He got excited when he heard this chiddush, that the children were brought in order to give a reward to the parents. That's normally what happens. But in my case, that didn't happen. From the very beginning, my mother made sure all I heard was Torah. Wow! Mothers get it right. Fathers get it right. They always make mistakes, even though sometimes we think they do. So Klal Yisrael are about to leave Mitzrayim, and this Bocha says, why should we give Shvach v'Aidah to Hashem Yisborach for taking us out of a place that He took us to in the first place? When I was, I think, 3 years of age, between 3 or 4, can't remember exactly, my mother did something she'd never ever done in her life before. I was very close to my late mother, particularly because I'm an only child, or as I like to and prefer to think of myself, unique. And so my mother took me to the hospital for an arranged stay in the hospital because I was having surgery. I had to have my tonsils removed, which they did very commonly in those days. Now, because I was so close to my mummy, and because I was the only child, I'd never been away from her. In those days in hospitals, it's not like they have it today. The nurses were a bit like Sergeant sergeants in the Marine Corps. Right? So the mother left the child in the crib, and she was thrown out. And I was crying my eyes out. Why is my mother leaving me here? And I was terrified. And the next morning when I woke up, in came another one of these Navy SEALs in nurses' uniforms. And she shouted my name. And I was terrified even more. So I did the only sensible thing that you could do, which was what? Right. What? Oh, of course. But I hid underneath the blankets. Right? It didn't work. She picked me up and took me away to have my tonsils taken out. It's no big deal, but they give you a general anesthetic, clip, take out the tonsils, and then when you wake up, half an hour later, they give you ice cream! Gewaldig! Take more tonsils out. I'm enjoying the ice cream. But suppose it wasn't the little boy getting his tonsils out, suppose the little boy had leukemia. Cancer of the blood. I mentioned that one because, Baruch Hashem, today, leukemia is a completely curable disease in children. Not so long ago it wasn't. But if such gewaldig chesed Hashem Yisbarach had such a tzlocha and success in this, it's almost always a completely curable disease. Suppose the little child is an only child and the mother leaves him in the hospital, but it's not just one night and ice cream. It's weeks and months. And it's chemotherapy and radiotherapy, which is terrible. Well, how is he going to feel about the mother and father for doing this? Be so upset. How could you do this to me? When he gets older and matures, he'll understand that the mother or the father took him to hospital to save his life. So the question was, why are we supposed to thank Hashem Yisbarach for taking us out of Mitzrayim? He took us there in the first place. He had to take us there in the first place. We had to have the cure that Mitzrayim would give us. And as soon, at the very last moment, when the cure was over, he took us straight out of there. What was the problem with Klal Yisrael? Why did we have to go to Mitzrayim? The first problem, first time we're told, does anybody know, when's the first time we're told we're going to Mitzrayim? Avram Avinu, yeah, go on. Bris ben Absarim, very good. The Bris ben Absarim. Avram Avinu says to Hashem Yisbarach, I can't have any children. Hashem takes him outside, he says, look at all the stars, you're going to have lots and lots of children. He says, I can't have any children. It's the Gemara in Shabbos and Kuftin Vav. He stopped, it's Tagnuni Shali, said Avram Avinu to Hashem, I've looked into this using my powers of astrology, and I can see in the Mazolas, I'm not going to have any children. Hashem says, say, it's Tagnuni Shal. Ignore astrology, she'ein mazel l'Yisrael. Jews are not affected by the Mazolas. And you should know that Taka, Rashi says in Yeshayahu in Mem Gimel Kof Zayin, Avicha harishin chota. There's a passage which says, your first father did a sin, and Rashi says there, but Amra b'ma eda. When Avram Avinu said, b'ma eda, how do I know that I'm going to have children? This was a pagam in Amunah. Now, I once told you about the European space rocket, the Ariane space rocket, Ariane 5. When the Europeans put satellites into orbit, they've got their own space rocket, and going back 20 years ago, the Ariane 5 took off with 4 satellites on top. The satellites were worth $370 million in the money of those days. And 4 miles up, the rocket was going off course, and therefore they had to press a button, boom, and blow it up. They did a whole inquiry to find out what was wrong. And they found out that the onboard computer that directs the rockets, called the attitude control, there had been a mistake in the programming of this computer. A human error. A computer programmer had made the mistake. You know what the mistake was? I memorized this. 0.000000001 of a millimeter. 0.000000001 of a millimeter. A millimeter. So who cares? It's a garnished. But over 4 miles, over time, that tiny mistake becomes multiplied, and it grows and grows and grows, so it's not going to get into space, it's not going to take off, it's not going to achieve its orbit, I have to blow up. So Rashi says in Yeshayahu, and the Gemara says the same thing, when Avram Avinu said, B'ma'eda, the mazalos, say I won't have any children, There was a begam there in Amunah. Problem one. Problem two, we see it again. There's an interesting place we see it again. And that is in the fight between Yosef and the brothers. After the whole Maisa with Yaakov making the Katanas Apasim, the brothers are jealous of Yosef. And it says, "V'lo yochlu ledabru l'shalom." They were not able to speak to Yosef l'shalom. And if you look at the way l'shalom is written there, in the beginning of Parshas Vayeshev, it's spelled Lamed, Shin, Lamed, Mem. The Vav is missing. So why is it spelled with the Vav? So the Baal HaTurim says, without the Vav, guess what the gematria of l'shalom is? It's quite easy. Well, Lamed is 30, 2 Lameds, 60, Mem is 40, Shin, 300, it's 400. Because you couldn't speak l'shalom, there was got to be 400 years of Golus in Mitzrayim. That's going to cure you. And sometimes we're under attack, that brings us close together. Of course, Hashem backdated the clock ticking to when he said this to Avram Avinu, so we're only there for 210 years. But it cured the problem. First of all, we saw in Mitzrayim clearly there is no other koyach in the universe, certainly in the mazalos, except Hashem Yisborach. So that cured the problem of the tiny fleck, the microscopic fleck of a problem in the Amunah of Avram Avinu when he said B'ma Eda. But not only that, when we come out from Mitzrayim, we stand at Har Sinai, and it says V'yachanu b'midbar, V'yichan sham Yisrael, and it swaps from the plural V'yachanu, and they camped, to Vayichan Sham Yisrael, and he camped in the singular. And you remember what Rashi says, Ki ish echad b'leiv echad. First time in Jewish history, the Jewish people were united. They'd overcome the sinas chinam of Yosef and the brothers. And therefore, and we left behind, which often happens, there's diseased tissue, there's a limb that has to be severed because it's going to kill the rest. 4/5 in the plague of darkness chose to stay in Mitzrayim. Rashi says they died in the plague of darkness. But the other opinion in the Medrash says they chose to stay there. They didn't want to be part of Klal Yisrael anymore. So the ones who went out were the ones who were committed, were healthy in Ruchnias, wanted to come to Har Sinai. When there would be Ba'achdus, and the problems that had to take us to Mitzrayim were cured once and for all. So why do we have to give thanks to Hashem Yisborach? He took us there. He took us there to the hospital to get radical treatment, which we needed to cure it. And as soon as he could, he took us out from there. And we see that the problems are taki cured. One last thought as we're Erev Shavuos. We stand at Har Sinai, and it says there that Klal Yisrael said Nasa v'nishma. But the other problem is, as we all know, that Hashem Yisbarach holds Har Sinai over our heads and says, if you accept the Torah, fine. And if you don't, Yisgadal v'Yisgadash. Which one was it? Was it that we said yes, or we were forced? So some Mefarshim say that what we said yes to was the Torah Sheb'Kasav. Nasa v'Nishma was the Torah Sheb'Kasav. The Torah Sheb'Al Peh we didn't want, and therefore Hashem had to compel us. But I'd like to, if it's not a chutzpah, to say a chidush. Just like Rabbi Yeshua said to his Talmidim, it's impossible to have a Beis HaMedrash without chidush, and we have a Beis HaMedrash at least for an hour or so here together. So this is a chidush. It's from me, so you can ask your rabbi, it might not be any good. But I think you could maybe say that Klal Yisrael are getting the message that you've got to listen to your daddy. It's very nice you said Nasa v'Nishma, but now I'm holding it over your head as well. You've got to know that sometimes when you think that the father's got it wrong, the father hasn't got it wrong. The father's got it right. Sometimes parents see things and understand things that you don't understand. That's what Rabbi Yeshua said, Gewaldic, my mother got this. That's why I achieved the Madriga that I achieved. It was a Yotzi Min HaKlal. That's why Klal Yisrael has ultimately, even though we said Nasa Nishma to understand, we're doing it because Hashem tells us to do it. We're Makabel the Torah because Hashem says it's good for us. Ki zeh chayenu v'orech yomenu. It's your life. It's the length of your life. It's the quality of your life. How do you know that? Because our Tati, Avinu Shebashamayim, told us so, forced us to take him. Because we know he wouldn't ultimately do anything that wasn't for us, for our good. That's why he took us to Mitzrayim. That's why he took us out from Mitzrayim. And that's why he gave us the Torah at Har Sinai.